Well, Tom Sykes is an associate professor at Portsmouth University. He joins me live now. Welcome to the programme. So clearly, there are many other people, many other world leaders that the ICC has put arrest warrants out for, notably Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and also President Vladimir Putin. Why Rodrigo Duterte? Why now?
Well, I mean, his defenders have been taking to social media today to sort of play this kind of whataboutism card and to sort of say, well, why should our man be in the dock when, as you as you say, Netanyahu, and we could talk about Tony Blair and George Bush for the Iraq War, we could talk about Putin and his sort of crimes. But I think coming from those people, it's in bad faith, I would say, because this is an argument I've come up against in my several years reporting on and analysing the Philippines. But because they're just invoking this to try and protect their man, But I think two wrongs don't make a right, or lots of wrongs don't make a right, because I think that this is quite an important day, or this is an important moment because Duterte is being brought to justice for leading an horrific, as your reporter was describing, an horrific sort of campaign of violence against some of the poorest and most desperate people in his own nation. And so, yes, let's bring him to justice, but also let's have a kind of even moral landscape of international law where leaders in the global north also get brought to justice, would be my view. And I think it's not an uncontroversial one. Indeed, lawyers for the ICC that I've cited and international legal experts would sort of make the same claim, to be honest.
Because very often we hear that the ICC just, it doesn't have teeth. So it was Rodrigo Duterte, I'm not going to use an easy get, but easier, we could argue, than Benjamin Netanyahu or President Putin.
Well, I mean, it's fun. You had Sarah Duterte, his daughter, who's the current vice president of the Philippines, interviewed there. And I'm no fan of her politics or her record in government, but she sort of has a sort of point there that there's a sort of political motivation to this. Duterte would probably not be in The Hague if there hadn't been a kind of schism, a massive falling out between two elements of the Philippine political elite, which is on the one hand represented by President Bongbong Marcos, and the other side of that is the Duterte family. It's Duterte himself and his daughter Sarah and other relatives. And it's only because there's been this, one could argue that Bongbong and the office of the president has been keen to sort of send Duterte off to The Hague to face justice as a sort of, as a kind of an attack on the Duterte clan. But I think, the byproduct of this move is going to be very positive for, if it can bring some measure of kind of comfort to the relatives of the perhaps 30,000 people who were killed in cold blood as a result of what's euphemistically called a drugs war. But actually, I think Amnesty International had it more, sort of put it more correctly as a war on the poor. That's the way they described it. And it certainly seemed that way to me when I was sort of reporting on it a few years ago.
Tom, thank you so much for giving us the background and the context. Thanks so much for your time. Tom Sykes, an associate professor at Portsmouth University.